What does it feel like to be invisible? Imagine walking into a room full of people and nobody notices you. You speak, but nobody listens. You try your best, but nobody cares. For many people, this feeling lasts for a moment, but for one boy, it lasted for years. This is the story of a boy who was always ignored, but one day, everything changed. The quiet boy. In a small town, there lived a boy named Daniel. Daniel was not the smartest student in school. He was not the most athletic. He was not the funniest kid in class. In fact, most people barely noticed him. Every morning, Daniel walked into his classroom quietly. Students were talking loudly with their friends. Some were laughing, some were sharing stories. But Daniel always walked to the last seat in the room and sat alone. No one saved a seat for him. No one asked him to join their group. It was as if he didn't exist, being invisible. One day, the teacher asked a question. Who can answer this? Many students raised their hands. Daniel slowly raised his hand too. He knew the answer. He had studied the lesson the night before. But the teacher didn't notice him. Instead, she chose someone else. Daniel slowly lowered his hand. This happened again, and again, and again. Eventually, Daniel stopped raising his hand. The lunch break. Lunchtime was the hardest part of the day. Students sat in groups. They shared food. They laughed together. Daniel sat alone with his small lunchbox. Sometimes he pretended to read a book, not because he loved reading, but because it helped him hide his loneliness. He often wondered something. Why does nobody like me? The day that hurt the most. One afternoon, the teacher announced a group project. Form groups of 4 students. Students immediately started choosing their friends. Within minutes, groups were formed all over the classroom, but Daniel stood there, alone. Everyone had already chosen their teams. The teacher looked around and finally said, "Daniel, you can join that group." But the group members didn't look happy. They didn't want him there. During the project, they barely spoke to him. They made the decisions. They did the work. Daniel just sat there quietly. At that moment, he felt something deep inside his heart. He felt useless. The silent promise. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about his life. Why was he always ignored? Why did nobody respect him? Why did nobody believe in him? Then he realized something important. If nobody believed in him, he would believe in himself. That night, Daniel made a silent promise. I will change my life, a new beginning. The next morning, nothing looked different. The same school, the same classroom, the same students. But something had changed. Daniel had changed. Instead of feeling sorry for himself, he decided to improve himself, little by little, day by day. The first step. Daniel started with something simple. He began reading books. At first, it was difficult, but every day he read a few pages. Then a few more. Soon he started learning new ideas, new knowledge, new ways of thinking. For the first time in his life, Daniel felt stronger inside his mind, improving every day. Daniel also started improving other parts of his life. He woke up earlier, he exercised, he practiced speaking more clearly. He worked harder on his studies. No one noticed these changes. No one praised him, but Daniel didn't stop, because this time, he wasn't doing it for others. He was doing it for himself. Months passed. Weeks turned into months. Something interesting began happening. Daniel's grades started improving. Teachers began noticing his work. One day, the teacher asked a difficult question. The classroom was silent. No one knew the answer. Daniel slowly raised his hand. This time, the teacher noticed him. "Yes, Daniel?" Daniel answered the question calmly. The teacher smiled. "That's correct." For the first time in years, the classroom looked at him. A small change. It was a small moment. But for Daniel, it meant everything. He realized something powerful. People respect those who respect themselves. That day, Daniel walked home with a quiet smile. Confidence. As time passed, Daniel became more confident. He spoke more clearly. He answered questions more often. His knowledge grew. His personality became stronger. People started noticing him, not because he demanded attention, but because he had earned it. The big competition. One day, the school announced a national academic competition. The best students from each school would participate. The teacher selected the top student, and surprisingly, she chose Daniel. Some students were shocked. Some even laughed. "Daniel? Really?" But Daniel didn't argue. He simply prepared. Every day, every night, the day of the competition. The competition day finally arrived. Students from many schools gathered in a large hall. The questions were difficult, very difficult. But Daniel stayed calm. He focused. He remembered all the hours he had spent studying. One by one, he answered the questions. At the end of the competition, the judges announced the winner. The first place goes to. There was a pause. Then the name was called. Daniel Carter. The entire hall became silent. The moment no one expected. The same boy who had once been ignored by everyone was now standing on the stage, receiving a trophy, receiving applause. Students from his school looked at him in disbelief. Was this really the same Daniel? Yes, it was. A new reputation. After that day, things began changing quickly. Students started talking to him. Teachers respected him more. People asked for his help in studies. But Daniel never forgot his past. He never became arrogant. He treated everyone kindly, especially the students who sat alone, because he knew exactly how that felt, the real lesson. Years later, Daniel became a successful professional. People admired him. They respected him. Many even called him inspiring. But when someone once asked him, "How did you become successful?" Daniel gave a simple answer. "I stopped waiting for people to notice me, and I started improving myself instead." The final message. The truth is, many people in this world feel ignored. They feel invisible. They feel like nobody cares. But the story of Daniel teaches us something important. You do not need everyone's approval. You do not need everyone's attention. Sometimes, the only person who needs to believe in you is you. Because the boy who was once ignored may one day become the person everyone respects.